got to ask you though. So talking about the draft, I know we mentioned Jalen Hurts contract. Obviously, if we, go back in time to whenever the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts, I think you and I both have said multiple times at the moment that felt like a terrible decision. Obviously, that's talk about, freezing cold takes, because it's great that they did take him. Yep. And Howie's mentioned the quarterback factory. That's the place we want to be in. And now Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to be an official visit in Philly. Now, mocks and projections seem to suggest that that's the guy you got to take, third round probably at the latest, according to some of the mocks that I've looked at. So, I mean, I get you got to do your due diligence, and I think he'd be a great fit. You did a show on it today about it. I think he'd be a great fit in Philly. But with the lack of picks we already have, is this a scenario that plays out again to where they take him? Let's say they do, and then we're like, what are you doing? We've got our guy. Why do you need it? I'm just curious to know what you think about it.
Yeah. See, I thought at best you could pay a fifth for him. You could trade up or trade back or however you want to do it. Get a 5th round draft pick, take him, because anything below a 4th round pick is officially a backup, right? There is, if you take a quarterback in the 5th, there is nobody on God's green earth who would say, oh, he's going to maybe push Jalen Hurts for a starter position. But that's why the Hurts pick in round 2 was so tough back at the time, because it was a 2nd round draft pick. You and I say all the time, your 1st and 2nd round draft picks have got to play. They got to play pretty much right away. You can give them maybe a year if they're not at a position of need, but Cam Jurgens, for instance, but they got to be ready to go day one. And you take Hurts, you're like, what are they doing? And so that's why it was so weird. I think the same would go for a 3rd round draft pick. I think it would send the wrong message. Even if you gave Hurts a big contract, even if you promised him behind closed doors that we're not pushing you for the starting job, we just want somebody in your mold to be the backup, it doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense to me because they did get Marcus Mariota. So unless your idea is we're going to take DTR because he's in the Hurts mold and we're going to groom him to be really good in 2 or 3 years, but he's still going to be a backup, so we spent a 3rd round draft pick on a backup at best, it just doesn't make sense, in my opinion. If you didn't have Marcus Mariota, it'd make way more sense, and you could sell it, but I think it's not worth the media carousel that would be thrown Philadelphia's way if they were to take him in round 3, and there would be some idiot out there who would at least go, oh, the Eagles are 6-4, and Hurts just threw 2 picks. DTR had a really good training camp, and then it starts getting really stupid. So 3rd round is, I still think a 3rd rounder should pretty much be able to play. You think Milton Williams was a 3rd rounder, right? That he, to me, is like the ultimate 3rd round draft pick. He's what you get out of a 3rd round guy. He can play right away. He can't play a lot right away. He won't produce a lot right away. But by the time he gets to year 3 or 4 in his contract, he should be pretty productive. And he was productive in limited snaps last year, and he should be productive this year. That's how I see it, right?
Yep, I agree. Yep, and you do want to see those players. The comment section's kind of beating us to it, but you mentioned Milton Williams. There's a question about Alfonso saying chances of Milton Williams having a breakout season. So, yeah, you talk about a 3rd round selection. You do want to see some production from those players. And maybe this is DTR is possibly a smoke and mirrors. You're just doing your due diligence, of course, because if maybe he does slide to a 5th round, let's say Howie gets some other draft picks and he's available there. I agree with you. I think that's maybe where you take it. I've seen some recent reports. I think Grant Cohn had posted that 3rd round, sometime around there might be where the Niners take a look at DTR. I don't know. There's so many reports and rumors, obviously, so you don't know what's true, but it just seems like more of the trending has been DTR in the 3rd round. So if that's where the Eagles were going to have to take him, then, please don't, because I would be shocked and saddened by it, because like you mentioned, the idea of also having Mariota here, you don't need to go and make that, because you're getting a 3rd string, basically. I mean, you're drafting him saying, hey, you're not even the 2nd string, you're the 3rd string. You're going to learn behind some, good offense to learn behind, great offense to learn, but it's not an immediate impact. It's a really fire insurance on a quarterback that you obviously are going to trust, because if you pay him big money like that, you're saying, well, we're not drafting the future, quarterback of the Eagles here. So I agree. The only way that it makes sense, I think, is later rounds if you get other draft picks.
I was trying to pull up the tweet here from Aaron Wilson. So he's visiting with the Eagles. I think today or tomorrow. He visited with the Bengals yesterday. He's already visited with the Browns. He worked out privately with the 49ers. It's just a whole different thing. The Niners can't figure out quarterback. It's insane what the Niners are going through. And then
Cole Rain says 49ers have too many quarterbacks. But let's remember, they don't have enough quarterbacks.
They don't have enough.
Because Kyle Shanahan puts them in the spot where they're going to get injured.
Oh, my goodness. Raiders, Chargers. He's going to be at their local prospect day, whatever that is. I guess when you bring in, Vince Papale off the street to see if he can play football. Either way.
I think that's it doesn't count as an official visit.
Is that what that is? Because he can drive.
So. Yeah.
Yeah. It's nuts. The Niners are going to have a private workout with him. Like, They got Sam Darnold. They got Trey Lance. Kyle Shanahan thinks he can turn anybody into a superstar, and he's done a pretty good job of it, but he can't keep them healthy. And there's the historical track record of him having quarterbacks that get hurt besides the Matt Ryan Super Bowl year in Atlanta. Like that's it. It's just crazy, crazy, crazy. What do you guys think? Who's most likely to have a breakout year? I'm confident Reed Blankenship having a CJ Gardner-Johnson like year. I think Reed is going to have a really good year. I don't know if he's going to break out at the 6 picks or something like that. I think he's going to turn out to be the next Roddy McLeod, where you never say his name because you never have to. He's not getting burnt. He's not getting a lot of picks, but he's just being a very good safety. That's basically what you saw in him towards the latter part of the year. And honestly, most interceptions safeties get anyway are tip balls. Most C.J. Gardner-Johnsons were tip balls. It's not like they're ball hawking guys who are going to jump in front of routes and get pick sixes all the time. They're playing deep coverage. The ball is overthrown. It's tipped in the air, and they catch it. And I think Reed can catch a bunch of those. I think he's going to be fine. Other breakout stars, Josh, do you have another one?
I mean, I think that Jordan Davis, I did a show on it probably a week ago by now. To Reed Blankenship real quick, I agree with you. And I think you won't even have to say his name a whole lot, because what I would love to see is him be the number 0, Agent 0. So you just refer to him as that. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, Jordan Davis, I think, is the other name. I go back and forth, Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean. I think those two really, like, if one has a breakout year, the other one is just going to have a breakout year by default. Like, they're going to help one another. And so I think that Jordan Davis, though, is the first starting point of that, obviously being on the defensive line. But if he has a breakout year and makes life easy for Nakobe Dean, I mean, you could see this guy leading the NFL in tackles, quite honestly, because Jordan Davis, we're asking him to take up a lot of space. And so I think that, you know, he's obviously already looking at this, or should be looking at this season saying, yeah, this is really my chance to step up here. And so I can't wait to see what he does with that role. But, you know, Nakobe Dean, whoever the other linebacker ends up being, if it's Nick Morrow, if it's another free agent signing, if it's a draft pick, I think those two linebackers are going to be able to feast if Jordan Davis has a breakout season. But I think he will.
Okay, I like that a lot. I've always hoped that Davion Taylor would turn into something. I think those final 6 games 2 years ago were very exciting because of the speed, and he was very good at wrapping up. I could see him being like a training camp name that gets a lot of buzz. Not that that means anything, because sometimes training camp names stink, but I maybe it's him. The problem is there aren't a lot of young, you know, guys who are going to play a lot, because besides the linebacker spot, Philly's pretty locked in with veteran, solid players everywhere, unless you want to say Cam Jurgens is going to break out, but Cam Jurgens is going to be like good. Well, what kind of surprise would that be? It just wouldn't make a lot of sense.
Or will he not start?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an argument you could have.
You can make the argument. Unless they draft Skoronski, then sure, but they're not going to take Skoronski, right? Like, come on, have some more fun.
I hope
I don't know.
But
I will say
Mel Kiper in 2 consecutive drafts has them taking Peter Skoronski.
Yeah.
So.
We're going to look at the Mel Kiper mock here in a second. I do want to say Jordan Davis, I think the jury's still out. I think that if he doesn't ball out this year, then we could talk about a bust at some point. Now, I think he will. You talk about the ankle injury a lot. I know you've said that on your show was a big factor because he was playing well. I get that. But he does need to step up a lot this year. He can't be a 20-snap guy the rest of his career. He's got to get up there in the snap range and be a little more disruptive than what I saw. He's a rookie, gets a pass, not a problem. He wasn't trash. He was fine. But you talk about someone who could turn out to be a bust. If there was one on this team, it could be Jordan Davis, but I don't think so. Don't hang me when he turns out to be a gold jacket wearer. But still, what are you gonna do? No 1NE. I would trade 30, 94, and next year's second to get in the early teens. Try to get Carter and Bijan. IDK. I may be stupid, but for that, but I'd love it. I don't. Okay, wait. First, I'm supposed to have the jersey entry. There you go. There's your jersey entry. So 5 more. Has this guy gotten any jersey entries yet? Or is he
I think it's the first one there. Yep.
There you go. All right.
Got you down.
Yeah, we got you down. If you have done it before, that means Josh just doesn't see it on his Excel sheet. So we do have everybody marked down. So 5 entries in the jersey giveaway. And in this case, you would get either Carter or Bijan, because that's who you're saying is going to be drafted. I don't hate this. I mean, I really don't. If you came out of the draft with Carter and Bijan, you have 2 instant day 1 starters who are going to be really good for a very long time. And that's the argument for why you would trade all this stuff up. And if you're giving up 30, so a first, 94 is a third, and a second next year when you already have 2, is anyone going to cry about that? Would there be any Eagle fan who would say, yeah, but what about getting some depth at the, safety spot there in round 3? You know, like, what? It wouldn't make any sense. I think this is fine.
Yeah.
I have no problem with this.
You sign me up for it. I'll
very
do that
exciting
every day of the week. Absolutely. Because, you know, you could go to everyone's draft boards, and obviously they're very different. They're very different the further you go down. But from everyone that I've listened to, I mean, you've got Bijan Robinson. We're not talking about like positions, just overall talent, pure talent. I know running back you could say is is devalued. You shouldn't draft him as high, but just pure talent. Bijan Robinson is like top 5. I mean, even Mel Kiper says he's top 5. Now he won't justify drafting him that high, but he says he's a top 5 talent. And so when you take a look at that, you're going to get 2 guys probably that are top 5 talent on everyone's draft board. So please sign me up for that. You get rid of, yes, some other draft capital, but I think that that's the only sense that it makes of if you're going to have even fewer picks is get 2 guys that are going to absolutely start and going to be here for a long time. You get a lot of productivity off of them, and you still have a lot of picks the next season. So then going into next year or to the next draft, so the next year you say, well, let's try to, fill some voids of the veterans that are going to be retiring or not coming back, leaving the team, things like that. But yeah, if you get Jalen and Bijan, I'll walk away very happy from the draft.
I mean, geez, like what more could you ask for, honestly, at that point? I mean, you're literally getting 2, like you just said, of the top 5, 10 players in this year's draft. It'd be pretty insane. It'd be pretty insane to say the least. Out of curiosity, would you guys take out Zach Ertz in his prime over Dallas Goedert currently? Yikes. That is a question I do not want to answer because that is a good question.
That's a very tough question.
I think Goddard's really good. Oh my gosh. I think Goddard's insanely good. I think he's grossly really underrated, and yet everyone thinks he's a top 3 tight end. But Zach Ertz was pretty baller too, right?
He was, yeah. I mean, you couldn't go. And honestly, I mean, I don't know how you felt, but whenever they drafted Goddard, I was like, "What are we doing?"
I was
like,
surprised.
we don't need him. Zach Ertz is our guy. So I'm glad they did, obviously. But I actually saw this. This is interesting. Okay, yeah. So I was going to look it up to make sure. I thought Dallas Goedert. So Dallas Goedert's 28. He's actually older than Ertz was when we drafted Goddard. If you believe that. So people are making the interesting case of, do you draft a tight end now? Now it seems like it'd be too early because we love Dallas Goedert. He's incredible. Man. But, you flip the art. That's what happened. Rewind back to whenever we took Goddard. I know we're kind of getting away from the answer to the question of who do you take better, but do you take another tight end?
I don't want to. I'll let Dallas take a tight end with their first round draft pick and see how it works out for them. That's tough.
That could be possible.
I think Calcaterra can be the next tight end. I thought Calcaterra was grossly in over his head, but started to figure things out later on in the year when Goddard was out for a couple of those games. So I'm out on that. I think you take prime Ertz just because Ertz won a Super Bowl with you, but I mean, we're really asking you to pick from your favorite children, right? Like, how do you decide which kid is better between Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert? They're both insane. And we also need to make this point. You just said that Dallas Goedert's older than Zach Ertz was when they took Dallas Goedert. Almost every single time Howie Roseman has drafted somebody before the older person on the roster was on his way out, he has been right. In recent history, he's pretty much nailed it. You talk about Zach Ertz, talk about Jalen Hurts, talk about why would you do that? That worked out really, really well. Jordan Davis, we think he's gonna be right about Fletcher Cox. There were still arguments about Cox has 3 more years left. Why? I guess that leads you into the idea of taking Skoronski, because Skoronski is, why? Johnson leaves, Skoronski comes in, who knows? Jurgens versus Kelsey, same thing. He's been pretty good about seeing the positions that really impact the football team and taking the replacement early enough to where we all go, and then it's like, oh, okay, 2 years later. But I just made an argument to drafting Peter Skoronski at 10, and now I hate myself because I don't want Peter Skoronski at 10. So
you just made a lot of sense.
That was a ton of sense.
I didn't like it in any way at all. So.
I don't like it.
But it seems like, I mean, it does, right? It feels very Howie-esque. Like, that's what he does. And so as much as we hate it in the present moment, or like as soon as it happens, we've seen a lot of kind of reaping the benefits whenever he can see into the future like that. So that's the only reason I bring it up. I don't know. I didn't actually officially answer the question. I might say Goddard. Like, I know he's had some, little injury issues and stuff, but who was it? I think somebody even mentioned it in the chat, yards after catch. Ramos Ertz never had yards after catch. I don't know if you say never had yards after catch, but I just feel Goddard. Like Goddard, it's just a different breed, different animal as far as after he catches the ball with a little space. I think I'd take Goddard.